All right, hello. Let's see, I'm getting things set up here. We're going to switch to my main screen. Here we go. Hello, Mr. Epix. Welcome. So today I'm thinking we're going to work on something called AC. Oh, Jens, hello, welcome. Today we're going to look at something called Azure Governance Visualizer. It's actually quite a cool project. I have it right here. So this Julian Hayward has made a cool governance visualizer. So it's actually working quite good. We have a lot of features, and it's a PowerShell script. We can run it, and it outputs an HTML file and a bunch of JSON and CSV files, and it more or less exports a whole Azure environment. Which means we can run this on a schedule. We can commit the result to a Git repository, and we can keep that for having a history of how things look. And we have this quite nice. Let's see if I can open up. I actually ran it a bit like a while ago. Let's see, we have it here somewhere, I think. So I had it here somewhere. Alright, am I doing promising too much? Anyway, here I have the repository downloaded. Wonder if we have some zoom it too. Zoom it. There we go. So here's the repository, and every time we run it, we get this folder with data. And then I think we got an HTML too, but I'm not sure where I put that one. So I guess we'll just have to do with the screenshots here. We get an HTML output, we get this graph, and we get some information about all the management groups and policies and policy assignments and role assignments and management group and diagnostics and whatnot. Super great report. I really like it, and if anyone knows Julian, make sure to say that it's been a great thing. But there is one slight problem, and that is that I'm trying to figure out how things are working and see if I can help him in any way. But the whole thing is actually one script, and I'm going to open up this here in Visual Studio Code. So this is the script, and as far as I can tell, there's nothing wrong with the script. It works, but it is long, really long. So it ends up being 24,026 lines of code, and it's really hard to just get into and know, like, where do I start? Well, what is all this? So I thought we could take this as like a fun exercise and just look at the code and see if we can like find stuff we can break out and see if there is like an easy way to just split this up in different files, and maybe we can make it still work, but make it easier basically. So I had this debug script I just created. It just runs this script with a parameter of my management group ID. I actually think I have a smaller scope I could use. Let's open some Azure. It's gonna do that off screen. Portal.azure.com. I'll sign in here. Use some MFA. Here we go. So this is my Azure Lab environment. I could probably just take this. I could just take this one, I think. I've been experimenting a bit with the sound and configuration and OBS and stuff, and when I started the stream, nothing worked and I had to restart my computer at the last minute. So please let me know if you have any problem hearing, or if something is too loud or too high or something. Let's see. Where were we? Down here. I'm just gonna put the name of this, so we have a really small scope we can run this on. That should make it a little bit faster. I think you could make music louder or voice. Music lower or voice louder. Alright, let's do that. So I think we can put this up a bit. And let's do something like this. Is this better? Good music, yes. Thank you. Yeah, the music is good. It's Harris Heller and Streambits. Really a fan, and it's so kind of Harris Heller to publish all this music on all the streaming platforms and let us use it for free. So let's dive into the script. I actually haven't looked too much at this script. I have gone through it just to make sure that it doesn't look harmful, and I've run it with a service principal, so that I only have read access to make sure that I don't run anything that I don't want to execute. So I'm thinking we should just go through this and try to go through a workflow like I would do if I found this for the first time. So we have a bunch of comments. It's actually quite well documented. There is a bunch of parameters that we can use. I found that this no Azure consumption was really helpful because my subscriptions doesn't really have a support for consumption API, so that really broke it. And we have a bunch of examples and a few links of how we can use this. And then we have all the parameters. I think we're just gonna leave them as is for now. And I'm thinking we should have a good thing would be to try to break this down into module and just load a module and then have a smaller script that calls different functions. I'm not sure if it's doable, but if it is, I think we can maybe do a suggestion and then contact the good Julian and see if he would be interested to actually take this as a pull request. So let's see. We start by clearing the error variable, and then we first line. I actually haven't used this. It's path routed. That was interesting. I assume that returns true if it's a full path. Really interesting. Cool. Learn something new every day. So if it's not a full path, we're going to join it, then we're going to join it again, and then we're going to get the full path. This is the same as result path. I had to look it up too, never seen it. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so I guess we could start by breaking this up into a function. We could have it in a like a resolve path. And this should be, yeah, let's start right away. So I'm probably going to build a module. That means we're going to have a new folder somewhere here. Let's just call it AzGovVisualizer. In that module, we're going to have some public functions. Oops, that was a file. Didn't intend to do that. So in here, we're going to create a new, let's say we have some public functions. And in that public function, we're going to have a test output path.ps1. Did it work? Test output. Why is my keyboard not playing with me? Test output path.ps1. I'm just gonna make them all public to start with, and then we can start then we can start breaking them up and dividing them into private and public and so on. So let's just create a new function. Let's call it test output path, and let's put basically all this. So this should be a slash on, yeah, backslash on Windows, and if we do the same on Linux, it's gonna be /. I'm not sure where we use that, so let's just take this part, copy that, and we'll break this out into somewhere here. Probably don't need the comments, and we need a path. I wonder if we have like a parameter path. Haha. Something like this, and it should be, don't need a parameter set name, value from pipeline to proper name. Path to I'm not sure if we're ever gonna need more than one path, but let's do it like this. So this should probably be path. If path is rooted, join it. Alright, so if it's a root. I'm a little bit torn. I think it's we're 30 lines in and we're already torn, but I'm thinking there is something called resolve path. Let's child item here. We have a pwsh folder. So what if I do resolve path pwsh? So that returns the path. I do no folder that actually throws, and it says doesn't exist. I don't think we need to reinvent resolve path. Does resolve path exist in PS5? I think it does. Let's make sure before we do anything. So where are we here? Okay, bunch of stuff in my profile. Resolve path, postman. Yeah, resolve path works in 5.1. I'm not sure if we have a backwards compatibility. And also I'm not sure if I want to rewrite any code when I'm doing a refactoring. Serpix wouldn't know if unless he happened to use it in a certain environment. Yeah, I think I can guess where that might be. Last time check version the original author is running before changing stuff. Yes, Bjompen, that is very, very good. And also I'm not sure if I want to change anything. I just want to do a copy paste kind of breakout code first. And once we have all the code broken up, I want to start trying to rewrite it or change things. So I think we're probably going to just, maybe we should even just do this and actually call it output path, so that we really don't change anything, because then all the code will be exactly the same and we have just moved it around. I think that's what we're gonna do. So test output path. And this of course needs to output path. So I'm not sure if we're gonna return it or write output. Probably just gonna write output dollar output path. And then we're gonna say output path equals test output path output path output path. Good. We're a few lines shorter. Then we have a file stamp. Try to get a file stamp, and if that doesn't work, write host, and then do a file stamp format. Yeah, I did, but then I named it back again because I thought I would just try to use the same exact code just to make it easier to like see what has changed. So let's take this and go here, say get file stamp. Get timestamp probably. Yeah, I appreciate that. Good thing. It's keeping on my toes. So we need a string here. Let's actually do a parameter like this. We're going to say this is mandatory. And it's going to be a string, and it's called file stamp format. I'm not going to use any pipelining here, so we don't need this. And then, so we're going to say file stamp is equal to this, and that doesn't work. We're going to do it with a default file stamp. And then we're going to just, I'm not sure, write output. Output, file timestamp. Get file timestamp. There we go. Let's go back here and say $file timestamp equals to, oops, get file timestamp. Just realized it's going to take forever. File timestamp format. There we go. If do transcript, this is a switch parameter, I believe. So if we have a management group ID, we're going to do this. And then we're going to start. That can be there. Execution time, international readable. I might disagree that this is international, but sure. Maybe it is. I don't know. What is the? Is there an international timestamp format? My personal preference is to do it the other way, do it the sortable way with year, month, day, and I prefer using 2 months, so I have get numbers instead of. I think this would give me. Yeah, October. Yeah, sure. I guess it's fine. So we get a timestamp, we get a start time, and we get a start time UTC. Alright. We'd probably like this to be used here instead of getting date again, because, or actually, yeah, I would prefer using this, not repeating a new date, so we have the same date. That's a small detail. We're getting the context, and then we're writing some stuff, and if we have no Azure consumption, we're going to check if we're in China Cloud and say, oh, if we don't have no, so if we're going to use consumption, ISO 8601 or bust. I assume ISO 8601 is the format Mr. Epic just wrote. And then we're going to set some stuff. So if we have a large tenant, then we're gonna do some settings, like no insights, no. Alright, makes sense. We have a hash table that contains parameters, and then we're gonna set AzGovViz version. Alright, I think that's fine. And I wonder where we get this. And this is basically just a lot of configuration based upon parameters. So this is interesting. I think we actually have an automatic variable called pspawn parameters, which contains. Oh, hi Thomas Lepa, welcome and thank you for following. We have an automatic variable called pspawn parameters that we could use in here. That would shorten off quite a while, I think, because we're just doing like if not this, then this. So if this is false, we're setting it to false, and otherwise we're setting it to true. Then we're doing a PowerShell edition and version check. Required version 703. Awesome, then we know what version we need to work with. So required version is this, and then we're splitting it and we are dividing it. That's interesting because I think $PS version. Right, he's setting this and then he's putting this and then comparing this into this. Yeah, makes sense. So PS version check result is let's check, and if it is, if PS edition is core and major equal to that, so if we have version 7. Otherwise, if this PS version patch. Alright, so if a major version is equal, then compare the next version, and if but I don't see if these, so if minor version is greater than version minor, which is the second part, then we're passed. This was some interesting logic. So let's look at this screen and do PS version table. So this is the automatic PS version table, and we are looking at the PS version part of it, where we have major, minor, and patch. And then we see if PS edition is core, which is in anything later than 5.1. If it's not, we're just gonna say failed, and alright, and then if it's passed, we'll do a lot of write hosts, and if it hasn't passed, we're going to do a lot of write hosts saying it only supports core version, required version or higher. So I think we have a verb, get verb assert. Affirms the state of a resource. I'm going to put all this in assert PS version. So I'm just gonna cut that out, and then I'm going to make a new file here called assert PS version.ps1. Then we're going to use the commandlet snippet, call it assert PS version, and we don't need this, and I'm just going to paste all this here, do some formatting, and I'm going to take this as a parameter. Oh, whoops. We're gonna say parameter. Whoops. This is going to be Mandalorian string. Something like that. Save it, go back here, and say assert PS version dash required PS version. Required PS version, and do that. Alright. So what happens if it is wrong? Does it do anything? Interesting. We need to make sure that this devil's gets code thingy works with this, because I'm assuming it's going to use the $error. It starts by clearing it, and then it's gonna go through it and make some kind of error summary in the markdown file or something. We'll see. So we can't really use this in here because I think we're going to remove this. Probably have to set that here instead. And then we do something like this, and this should just return a boolean then. So we do this, we don't use any weird variables anywhere, I hope. They're not there, there. Alright. So when we get down here, we're just going to true. And if we go down this route, we're going to write output false. Right, that means that this should be true or false, and actually we can do like this if not assert this. Then we're going to do this. Right? Then we're going to check if the debug AC API call is false, and if it is, we're going to say it's debugged else. Alright. I think we can just leave that as is. Shut up, polluters. Progress preference is silent to continue. Interesting. Suppress Azure PowerShell breaking change warnings true. So if we set that, I assume that we suppress the warnings. Yeah. We can work with that, and then we have a new function called an add index number to array. And it's only used once. Okay. It takes an array, and then it loops through the array and adds a member called pound. All right. Let's put this in a new file. New file is one, and then we just take this whole thing and put it in here. Let's browse this and see what this is. Okay. Cool. So this is a GWT details function. It takes a token and it breaks it up and converts it, removes any padding. Here we're using add verbo instead of add write hosts. And then we're just creating a thingy and calculates the Alright. I think we could just remove this as well. Just put this in a new file. Let's start by copying this and create a new file here, all this dot ps1, and then we're going to copy the whole function here, put that in here, and that should work as is. That's not. So this should return the actual function. I'm not sure it will actually run the function. Interesting. Function, test stuff. Return stuff is tested. Plus, why not? And then we do function colon test stuff. I'm not even sure how to do this. Actually, let's do it simpler. Let's do this, and then we do function colon test stuff. Yeah, that returns like the body of the function. Which probably is a script block. Get type. Let's search for this thingy. It's never actually used. Alright, beats me. I'm just gonna comment this out and say this line seems to never be used. There we go. And then we're going to find this, and this is used a bunch of places. Alright. There we go. Lisa, hello, welcome. My shoutout worked. Check.variable.invoke. Yeah, but if we use variable.invoke, yeah, it works. If then we should find like this .invoke, and we don't find that anywhere, so I think we're fine. Then we have a bearer token, so we have a function that creates a bearer token. Takes the target endpoint. This is interesting. So we're using a check context, and that is the thing we created up here somewhere. Yeah. So that needs to be a variable. Uncertain. Let's cut that out and create a new file. token, whatever, because I don't create bearer token, and let's rename this to create bearer token. So here we have the create bearer token. Now we can't use any variable that isn't created in this scope. So first off, I am going to do this because just to try to standardize, I'm going to try to put the parameter in a param block like this, and do this. It should be the same, it should work the same. And then we just have to go through this code and make sure that we're not using, no global variables. So if the target endpoint is management API, then we're going to do this. And we have a profile client, and then we have a catch result. That's fine, although this doesn't work. So we'll have to take a context variable and we do this. Are we using chic context? Yep. So this needs to be a context. There we go. I think we're fine. We have some lines that is insanely long here. I wonder if we should just add a using statement, or if we should. Yeah, this should at least be able to line break here. Just to it's gonna zoom out to see. Yeah, it's a bit long, but I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine. This is really interesting. This shows that the author has some intimate knowledge about how this whole RM profile client works. I've been meaning to look into that, but just haven't had the time. But I think this is interesting. So if target endpoint is msgraph, we're doing the same thing basically. But in this case we're using the default context. Yeah, this is definitely something I would like to have a better understanding of. This is strange. So it takes the HT Azure environment that doesn't exist in this context. We need to find it in here. So it's a hash table. And it populates a lot of stuff in it. Okay. I'm thinking maybe we should just take that as a parameter. hash environment related URLs. Let's do this. This. And before I forget what we're doing, this is going to be a hash table. Whoops. Hash table. And this is the variable we're going to use for it. So let's go back here. Navigate back to wherever we were. There we go. Not really. There we are. So actually not using this. I get confused. We have 8 references to this. And then we are a variable. We don't use the variable. I'm suspecting there's something funky with these variables. Let's do this. And this. Because I think I'll blow up something. And then we are going to... So every time we do this, since we're using this at 8 places, we're going to need to replace all these. And we're going to need to put in context and this thing. So let's click on this one, take the first one, do context, and then do whatever that thingy was. Check context. There we go. And then we're going to need to add this thingy. And we're going to call it that. Alright. So I'm going to keep this open just to change this line for now. And let's go through this again. So now we have this, and that means that we can remove this. And I don't think it's used anywhere else. Good. Then we have a catch result, which is $_. I'm not sure there is $_ here. Oh, sorry. Of course, it's a catch. Thank you, Mr. Epix. Yeah, whatever error we have in catch, it's $_. Of course. And then if it's not, let's check. Yeah, I think so. So then we're doing a lot of right hosts. then we throw an error after that. So I'm assuming this is because we want to run this in an Azure pipeline, and write host is a good way to like populate the console output. Alright, and then we write into the script scope and saying that the token is so we create a new bearer token. So far so good. This might be a problem. Wonder how we should use this. So if we create a script variable that is called HTBearerAccessToken, then we can call that. We can keep that in a module scope variable. But I'm a bit afraid that this is going to be messy. So we could but I also don't want to rewrite like the 8 places where we're using this. And probably a lot of places where we are using this variable. Yeah, we probably have to just go through this. So in this case, I wonder what target endpoint is. Dollar target endpoint. So I wonder how many times we are using this thingy. 4 times. So it's being used in ACAPI called diag and it's used here. So maybe we don't need this logic at all. What if we just use Let's go back. Here we go. So here we are setting these. And if we search for just that, we use it in 21 places. I'm gonna need to set some bookmarks here and see if we can. Repair token, yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking this whole thing can just, like, if we don't do this, and then we do all that, and then we just do write output of the access token. So we make this function just return the access token. I think this should work. And then we do, oh, where's my, so every time we use this, I think we actually need to copy this. Here we go. So let's do this. So we're going to use target endpoint. There we go. If the target endpoint is this, we're going to set this, and it's going to call it access token. Make sure it's not used. Good. And then just going to take this and put it there. Copy that whole thing. Go back to wherever we were, up here. It's gonna be a bit cumbersome. Probably want to copy all this. And every time it says this, we want to say this instead. Might seem a bit unintuitive, but we're actually adding code to try to make it shorter. but bear with me. Okay. And here we know it's management API. So here we can just do this, which means we don't need this. And here. There we go. And in here, we're just gonna put in here, and oh, we know it's this. So let's here and move this. Not super happy about that, but I think we can work with that. Now let's find our way back. So I think we updated all these, and that means that we should be able to remove this. Naming validation. Let's just take this whole thing, break it out, create a new file, call it naming validation.ps1, and put that in there. We have checks array, and we can check so look for so we're checking if any of these, if a string contains any of these characters. There is a contains which takes a string or a char. So we can probably do let's do that for now. Maybe make a note. try to, or test if using string dot contains works here. Something like this. GG. So I'm writing to do it like this because then I can have this to do extension that just highlights it for me. I think there is like a bookmarks extension that works even better, but I haven't looked into that, so we'll just go for this for now. This is probably gonna bite me in a while. And that takes us to 10:30. We're at line 534 out of 24,000. And we actually shorted this by almost 200 lines. So for anyone arriving late or wondering what we're doing, we have this great script, and I really want to understand what it's doing, and I really want to see if I can make understand this and find like any potential improvements and so on. But the problem is it's one huge script and it's 24,000 lines. So I'm just seeing if I can break this apart and split this up. So I have a list of functions here in the scripts folder or in the public folder. So every function here should be in its own file. I'm trying to make all the functions to work without relying on any existing global variables or anything. And if we're just like trying to break this apart and put all the functions in, yeah, not that much left exactly. If we just break this apart and have each function work in its own file, then we can start looking at like the actual script logic without having to scroll through these thousands and thousands of lines of code. And we can also look at one simple function and look at just that function and see if we can, like, I don't know, write a unit test or improve a single function or something. So I'm not actually doing like any code review or anything. I'm just trying to break this out and refactor it in a way that I can make sense of the code. And if I manage to do that and it still works, I intend to contact the author of this module and ask if he's interesting to, or at least I assume it's a he, because he was named Julian something. I'm going to reach out and ask if this is something that he would be willing to collaborate on. If he doesn't, that's totally fine by me. I've probably learned a lot, and I hope that you could help me do this and maybe learn something too in the process. So please let me know if this is interesting. If it is, we're gonna keep on doing this every Monday for a while, because I think it's gonna be a nice learning experience for me, and refactoring large code sets is something I kind of enjoy. So please let me know if you like it. If you do, we're gonna keep doing it. If you don't, I guess we'll do something else in a while. So hope I'll see you here next week, Monday 9 p.m. ish, European time or Central European time. And until then, have a great time. Thank you very much for hanging out with me.